us wrong. We desperately need you to prove us wrong. God help us all. If you fail to prove us wrong, God help us.
What happens in the world and its nations?
South Africa.
In Samarkand, Uzbekistan.
Reporting from New York for WION.
Creates ripples.
This is World of Africa, the 70th episode. My name is Erik Njoka. This week, we tell you an inspiring story of grit from a young man from Guinea who traveled more than 4,000 kilometers to pursue his dream of being an Islamic theologian. Mamadou Bari's passionate efforts are coming up shortly. Welcome to the show. We begin from Southern Africa. Eswatini's government has held the election of 51 male and 8 female members of parliament to the lower house of parliament as free and fair. The elections are unlikely to offer any political change to the kingdom, with the members of parliament serving in a purely advisory role to the monarch, the king, King Mswati III. Candidates for the elections ran independent of any parties, which are banned in the country, and was elected by traditional chiefs close to the king. All legislation in the country is approved by the king, who has the right to veto. King Mswati III also appoints the Prime Minister, the Cabinet and judges, as well as commanding the police and the army. Here's a report from Bambane.
Opposition candidate Nomalungelo Simelane, known as Laswide, is taking a rare stand for democracy before elections in Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland.
All that is in my heart is that we are fighting that our people must get someone who will go to parliament and speak for them and stand for them, so that whatever they want here they must get from our government.
Political parties are banned in this tiny nation since 1973, forcing individuals seeking elected positions to run as independent candidates in the parliamentary elections, which happens every 5 years. Even ahead of the vote, hope had already dwindled.
But they are saying there's elections which are free and fair. There's nothing like that. And the world must know that in Swaziland we are living in an absolute monarch. The 3 arms of government are under one man, not even a certain one man. King Mswati III is the one that decides what is going to happen.
And so the voting happened. This is the first poll since 2021's deadly pro-democracy protests. More than 500,000 people registered to vote, and they were set to elect 59 members of the lower house of parliament. But the MPs only have an advisory role and do not wield any tangible power in the country. The power of the politicians elected in these polls consists mainly of being able to make suggestions to the king, who is free to ignore them. But King Mswati III has encouraged people to turn out to vote. The 55-year-old king, who inherited the throne in 1986 when he was just 18, will select 10 more representatives. The king also appoints the cabinet, prime minister and judges, approves laws proposed by parliament and commands all of Eswatini's security forces.
I think it is very important to keep the traditional system because it is our only identity.
There is a lot we benefit from the kingdom, a lot we benefit from the monarchy. The king is hardworking and he takes good care of us.
Yes, the monarchy's crackdown on dissent and the country's political nomination system, which involves traditional chiefs choosing candidates often produces elected officials supportive of the monarchy. 2 opposition lawmakers elected in 2018 are currently detained for pushing for democratic rule, while a third fled into exile. In 2021, student-led protests that began over alleged police brutality morphed into calls for political change. The unrest led to the death of more than 45 people. The king's polygamous and opulent lifestyle, which is characterized by luxury cars and watches, has long faced criticism. More than a third of the country's 1.2 million people live below the international poverty line. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Gabon marked 1 month since the military junta took charge of the Congo Basin nation in a coup. President Oligui Nguema has now announced the arrest of former First Lady Sylvia Bongo Ondimba Valentine over charges of money laundering and taking advantage of her husband's health condition to manipulate him. Sylvia is co-accused with her son, Noureddine Bongo, of corruption. The new administration is tightening the noose on the previous regime. Is the long-revered Bongo dynasty crumbling? Here's a report from Libreville.
She always accompanied her husband during public appearances and engagements, including campaigns, ever since he was anointed as president of Gabon. Sylvia Bongo Ondimba Valentine was the supportive first lady to depose President Ali Bongo. And so when the coup happened, the family went underground.
My son is somewhere, my wife is in another place, and I'm at the residence.
Now, a month after taking charge, President Oligui Nguema's administration is cracking down on the Bongo dynasty. The country's public prosecutor issued a notice from the court that accused Sylvia of money laundering and other offences. The investigating judge also accused the former First Lady and the couple's son, Noureddine Bongo Valentine, who was already facing corruption charges, of having pulled the strings in the oil-rich country.
Des interpellations ont eu lieu.
A dozen compatriots were arrested and charged with criminal and misdemeanor offences, and some were remanded in custody. It was in this context that Madam Sylvia Bongo Ondimba Valentine appeared before the examining magistrate on September 28th, where she was charged with money laundering, handling stolen goods, forgery and use of forgeries. All offences punishable under Article 116, 117, 312 and 380 of the French Criminal Code before being placed under house arrest.
116, 117, 312 et 380 du Code pénal.
Sylvia Bongo Valentine has been under house arrest in the capital since her husband was overthrown on August 30th. Moments after being proclaimed the winner in a presidential election, her house arrest order has also been upheld. One of her lawyers said earlier this month that she was being kept incommunicado outside any legal framework.
She deserves this because no matter what power you have, you cannot destroy a whole country, and really, justice must do its work.
It's true that I don't know what role First Ladies have to play, but Sylvia Bongo Ondimba Valentine, well, I can't see what she's done for Gabon.
Oligui accused the First Lady and her son of having squandered the president's power by using his stroke as a scapegoat in signing documents. Immediately after the coup, the new president summoned around 200 Gabonese business leaders to a meeting and lectured on corruption, warning business leaders against overbilling. He ordered them to commit to the development of the country. But even as the new leader asserted his command, Gabonese are still waiting for some semblance of change.
In his speech, he emphasized on the importance of water access for all Gabonese citizens. Here in Melun district, we have the infrastructure in place, but we still lack access to water. Hasn't taken any actions or initiated contact with water and energy company agents to address this issue. As of now, we're still waiting, and there has been no progress.
For now, the political and economical challenges will continue to affect the resource-rich African nation in limbo as the dynasty which has ruled over the country for 6 decades crumbles. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Rachid Ghannouchi, a prominent opposition leader in Tunisia and the former speaker of the country's parliament, went on a hunger strike behind bars in solidarity with a fellow political prisoner and head of the opposition coalition National Salvation Front, Ben Mbarek. President Kais Saied is accused of oppressing opposition figures who question his regime or leadership. And now the world is reacting. Here's a report from Tunis.
He is the highest profile figure to be arrested in Tunisia as President Saied tightens his grip on power. He's also the leader of Tunisia's main opposition party and an ardent critic of President Kais Saied. Rachid Ghannouchi was imprisoned on charges of incitement against state authorities. His supporters called the accusations baseless, and now the prominent opposition leader, who also served as Speaker of the country's parliament, has been on a hunger strike behind bars.
Mr.
Ghannouchi decided to begin a symbolic 3-day hunger strike in support of Mr. Ben Mbarek strike. Mr. Ghannouchi, we must not forget his old age. He's over 80 years old. He's someone, considering his old age and health condition, finds himself incarcerated in difficult conditions.
Une personnalité qui a la santé de son âge.
Ben Mbarek, a critic of Saied who's been under arrest since February 24th, also went on a hunger strike to denounce his unjust detention. Mbarek has spent more than 7 months in pre-trial detention. Ghannouchi decided to join the support for Mbarek. The president has been accused by the opposition of increasing authoritarianism and staging a coup when he dissolved parliament and dismissed the government in July 2021. The 82-year-old Ghannouchi, who is the head of Tunisia's self-described Muslim Democrat Ennahda party, was parliament speaker from the 2019 election until Saied sent tanks to shut down the chamber in 2021. He was sentenced in absentia to 1 year in prison in May as he refused to appear before the judiciary, rejecting what he said were fabricated political trials. Since early February, authorities in the North African country have arrested critics and personalities who have accused Saied of a coup for his moves to close parliament and rule by decree before rewriting the constitution. More than 20 political figures have been arrested in the North African country, including members of the main opposition coalition, the National Salvation Front, NSF, and its main component, the Islamist-leaning Ennahda party.
O great people who called for this blessed revolution, continue your revolution and preserve it and translate it into democracy, justice and equality.
Les libertés sont effondrées dans notre pays.
Freedom has collapsed in our country because institutions have been broken, the constitution torn up and power monopolized by a single person. It is the reign of arbitrary. It is therefore a situation of absolute arbitrariness where people are victims of the exercise of their natural rights.
Celle d'un arbitraire absolu.
Arrests of Tunisian opposition leaders has drawn global condemnation. The European Union recalled the importance of respect for the rights of the defense as well as the right to a fair trial in Tunisia. Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan also offered his support to the opposition figures, saying he would speak to the authorities in Tunisia to convey his concern. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has announced a 6-month increase to the minimum wage. Workers called off their indefinite strike. The president's announcement was made as the country marked the 63rd Independence Day, even as the cost of living crisis continues to skyrocket. Our correspondent Louisa Olaniyi sent us this report from Lagos.
At 63, the green and white flag stands tall in Nigeria. The country is marking its 63rd independence anniversary from the British colonial rule. For President Bola Tinubu, the celebrations come soon after he cemented his term in the presidential office. This year was his first Independence Day broadcast to the nation. Tinubu applauded all countrymen and their will as they made it through another year despite the countless challenges. For him, these challenges are what strengthens the nation. While Nigeria has been in news this year for its elections and battered economy, the president believes the country has passed a significant milestone and is inching towards the better. Tinubu said that Nigeria stands by the rule of law, which remains its guiding light. And this was proof by the fact that the country this year saw its 7th consecutive democratically elected government.
Reform may be painful, but it is what greatness and the future require. There is no joy in seeing the people of this nation shoulder burdens that should have been shared years ago. I wish today's difficulties did not exist, but we must endure if we have to reach the good side of our future.
Ahead of the big day, the Nigerian government announced that the celebrations will be scaled down given the economic crisis. But for the people, it was indeed a day where their joy knew no bounds. It was a day marking freedom for them.
The Indian community in Nigeria is well entrenched into the society. They are productively contributing towards the economy of Nigeria.
There is a significant Indian population living in Nigeria. For them, along with the British colonial past, the culture and its complexities form a common ground.
We are very much happy for that more investments will be coming after a president's visit to India recently, and we look forward for more investments from India and more employments and development of our country, our fatherland, Nigeria.
In recent times, India and Nigeria have increased cooperation in trade, technology and diplomacy. President Tinubu visited New Delhi last month for the G20 summit, where along with the leaders, he met with Indian businessmen on the sidelines. Despite the challenges, Indians in Nigeria are working towards enhancing partnerships, both in business and people to people. Wishing Nigeria a happy Independence Day, they look forward to better ties ahead.
I found that Nigerian people are very friendly and very welcoming, and people from India coming here and earning money, they should be very loyal and they should be grateful to Nigeria and Nigeria country.
Nigeria and India have deepened their ties in various fields, including trade, technology and diplomacy. Experts say these strengthened bonds have the potential to reshape the dynamics of both nations and have far-reaching implications for the African and Asian continent. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa WION, World is One.
A student cycled 4,000 kilometers across West Africa, enduring arrests and blazing heat for a sport at his dream university. Mamadou Safayu Bari set off from Guinea for Egypt's prestigious Al-Azhar University, hoping he would be accepted. The 25-year-old cycled for 4 months through countries racked by Islamist militants and coups. Here now is his story.
Guinean student Mamadou Safayu Bari cycled thousands of miles across Africa for a place at the top Islamic university in Cairo. It all started with a dream to study at Al-Azhar University, one of the world's oldest and most renowned Sunni Muslim learning institutions. But he was unable to afford a flight to Egypt from Guinea. So he drew a map of Africa in his notebook and set off on a second-hand mountain bike. 4 months and 7 countries later, he is in Cairo with a full scholarship to the elite university.
If you have a dream, all things you have to do, you have to follow this dream, to go on its way, because that's what will help you. To say that today I'm doing this, tomorrow this, no, you will never see a good road. But if you have dream, rest on it and be strong on it. But if you are on it, God will help you.
Bari covered approximately 62 miles each day, passing through jungles, deserts and conflict zones. He paddled through Mali, Burkina Faso, Togo, Benin and Niger before stalling in N'Djamena, the Chadian capital. His planned route was disrupted by an ongoing conflict in Sudan. He said he had already been detained 3 times, twice in insurgency-plagued Burkina Faso, and once in Togo, where security forces held him for 9 days without charge before releasing him in exchange for $56. He said that was his entire savings for the remainder of the journey.
I got tired on the bike, and I often slept in the bushes, because in the cities I was a little afraid of people. Maybe if I slept in the city, some thugs would come and take my bike and hurt me. So I really preferred to spend the night in the bush rather than in the cities.
Barry's luck changed again in Chad after a local philanthropist who had read online about his journey offered to fly him directly to Egypt and bypass the fighting in Sudan. Barry arrived in Cairo in September 5th and days later secured a full scholarship to Al-Azhar. He intends to return to Guinea when his studies are complete to spread the faith that has taken him so far.
Yeah, I dream after that to be one of the biggest scholars in the world, the biggest ulama in the world. When I will return my country, I would like to be someone who teach Islam and call people, tell them how to do things, good things, to teach them.
And finally, Ethiopian Orthodox Christians celebrating the Meskel festival came together in the capital Addis Ababa after most of the faithful skipped last year's festivities due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It is the first big festival the Ethiopian religious year and marks the finding of the cross that Jesus was crucified on.
This huge bonfire ushered in the Meskel festival celebrations in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The fire commemorates the discovery of the true cross by Saint Helena in the 4th century. Meskel is one of the holiest celebrations in the Christian tradition, followed in this devout nation, driven by ethnic and political violence. As day breaks, hundreds of Ethiopian Orthodox Christians descend on Meskel Square to mark the annual festival.
Please let us repent. Get closer under the words of the cross. Forgive each other and live in harmony, peace and equality. Let justice prevail on our land. Let human rights be respected. Let the victims be compensated. Let's listen to God. That is when we celebrate Meskel.
According to legend, Helena, the mother of Roman Emperor Constantine I, was led to the cross, a fragment of which was believed to have been brought back to Ethiopia by the smoke from a ceremonial bonfire. Ethiopia is one of the oldest Christian countries in the world. Ancestors of the present-day Ethiopia made Christianity a state religion from the 4th century at the same time as Rome. Short of an official census, it is estimated that roughly 2/3 of Ethiopia's 120 million people are Christian and another third are Muslim, with a small animist minority. Most Christians are Orthodox, although the share of Protestants has recently grown significantly. In Tigray, the cradle of the Aksumite kingdom, this Meskel was the first in peacetime since 2020, when the federal government went to war with rebel leaders in the northern region. A peace deal in November last year drew a line under the 2-year conflict.
As much as we expect from God, we also need to contribute our part for peace, development, blessings, brotherhood, harmony, equality and everlasting peace. All people of Ethiopia, small or big, priests or others, everyone must contribute for peace.
Despite the conflict ending in Tigray, armed violence rages elsewhere in Africa's second most populous country, which is divided into states along ethno-linguistic lines. In Amhara, where militias have been clashing with Ethiopia's army since April, a state of emergency has been declared in the region. But Ethiopians decided to put that aside. The festival began with fire and ended with another called the Lightning of Demera, which illuminates the sky representing hope. The commemoration feast of the finding of the true Holy Cross of Christ was inscribed by UNESCO in 2013 on the representative list of the intangible culture heritage of humanity. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of Wild of Africa. Get in touch with us on all our social media platforms and share your feedback about the show there. Until next time, my name is Erik Njoka. Keep watching WION Wild is One. Goodbye for now.
It's easy to tell you a flat story. It's easy to show you what's happening around the world. We do the difficult part.
This weapon has been banned, but the US, Ukraine and Russia do not find the bombs problematic.
We also tell you why what's happening.
New drug is making a difference in the fight against Alzheimer's. This medicine helps slow down a patient's cognitive decline.
We look beyond the text. We give you context.
Is China preparing for a war in the Himalayas? And tonight, we come to you with some proof.
Hypocrisy is stunning.
Do leaders mean what they say? Do they ever say what they mean?